Yes, ma'am. Now, ma'am, we can start, ma'am.
Okay. Good afternoon, Honorable President, Council of Architecture, Architect Habib Khan, Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor, Amity University Gurugram, Dr. Padmakali Banerjee, my colleagues and students from various architecture schools, and everyone attending this event. I am Dr. Gupta. I am the Director of Amity School of Architecture and Planning, Gurugram, and I extend a very hearty welcome to all of you. March 2020 marked the beginning of a new phase of education, and little did we know that time that there is going to be a new normal very soon. None of us were prepared for this change, as such a pandemic has occurred after 100 years, and all of us are witnessing this for the first time. There is no prior experience with anyone for handling this situation. We all have seen the disturbing visuals of extremely vulnerable people walking miles to their hometowns, resulting in reverse migrations. Series of lockdowns severely affected life and livelihoods of millions of people. Never in my life I had seen exams getting cancelled. Year 2020 has been an exceptional year. On the backdrop of this very severe pandemic, there are frequent earthquake tremors in NCR, which is making us anxious. There are floods, excess rains, and many other instances like gas leak, fires, etc. On the other hand, there were a few major positives of the situation, like we saw pollution levels falling and healing of the environment. We are now adapting to a new way of life, which is social distancing. In the past few months, world went through a phenomenal change. Many occupations closed down and many new are born. While many of the sectors were severely disrupted, education sector, especially higher education, continued. The rapid shift on the online mode was the necessity. Most of us had never used Zoom, Teams, Google Meets, WebEx before this March. We were in for a giant technological leap which we were not even aware of. Education saw a complete paradigm shift, and as the only thing constant in this world is change, instead of complaining and waiting for the things to be back to normal, we had to change and adapt to the new normal. Soon we realized this world offers a plethora of new opportunities and possibilities also in the education sector. Architecture education and profession in India is governed by Council of Architecture, and I must extend heartfelt thanks to Council of Architecture for providing us timely guidelines and advisories for all the aspects of education, be it training, thesis, examinations, vivas, and everything. Following the guidelines of Council of Architecture and the active technical support and guidance from the university, we could complete the last semester in time without compromising much on the quality of outcome. To my surprise, many students responded even better to the online teaching and learning. But last semester, when the lockdown was announced in March, all the outdoor work of architecture was almost completed for most of the colleges. Now, this semester is going to be different. Architecture is a unique profession, and architectural education is one of a kind. Teaching and learning architecture from closed indoor spaces is a challenge, as our pedagogy is usually dependent on site visits, case study experiences, and a lot of exploration work which happens in our labs. We are working on unique pedagogies to overcome this challenge using the technological advances now. Architectural education is known for the passion the students have, and we do not want to compromise on it. Although I must admit that things were not easy and are still not easy. Situation is getting tougher day by day. As we all know the status of COVID-19's pandemic in India and many other countries. Our students, the future architects of our country, often find themselves stressed and worried about their future. I've been individually speaking to some of the students who need more guidance and find that they are confused. Finally, students often get confused or worried about their exams, their degree, their jobs now. But as it is said, most of your worries never come true. To address these concerns of our dear students, we have organized this event. We are thankful to receive questions from various architecture schools across India whose students keenly sent us questions to be addressed by the President Council of Architecture. The colleges which are participating in this session are all architecture schools from Amity universities like Amity Gurugram, Raipur, Lucknow, Amity Kolkata, Amity Jaipur, Amity Noida, and Mumbai. Apart from the Amity University students, students from Vastukala Academy from Indraprastha University, Delhi, Bundelkhand University, and Gautam Buddha University from Greater Noida also have participated. The questions we received from the students are heartfelt, and I'm sure when these questions will be addressed by the president, they will feel more positivity in this difficult phase of education, profession, and life. I'm very thankful to Honorable President, Council of Architecture, Architect Habib Khan, for taking time out from his very busy schedule for talking to the students of architecture to guide them, counsel them, and to address to their queries. I'm also looking forward to words of wisdom from our very own Pro Vice Chancellor, Dr. Padmakali Banerjee, who has been a pillar of support to us in these unprecedented times and is on a mission to ensure a smooth sail for all of us during these turbulent times. We also have our faculty coordinators here, Dr. Pallavi, Architect Geetika, Architect Radhakrishna, and Architect Raghav, who have been coordinating this event. We have our bright final year student, Saloni, who is representing architecture students here and has been actively involved in coordinating this event. Now I request Saloni Jain to introduce our speakers.
Great things happen when there is a gathering of great minds. It is with inordinate anticipation that we extend to all of you to this auspicious forum. Good evening. Today I, Saloni Jan, a fifth year student of Amity School of Architecture and Planning, Gurugram, welcome you all to the online dialogue on architectural education and profession during pandemic on the behalf of all architecture students. Distinguished teachers, guests, and my dear friends, with a spring in my step, expectancy, and a lilt to my heart, I welcome Honorable President of Council of Architecture, Architect Habib Khan. Architect Habib Khan graduated in architecture as a gold medalist from VRCE Nagpur and completed his master's in architectural design from University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, USA. After completing his master's degree, he worked in Philadelphia, coordinating major retail design projects for retail giants across the world. He started his own private practice after returning to India in 1990. He has a prestigious list of awards and achievements like JIIA Best Interior Design Award, IIA KAFF Architects Award, Orange City Achievement Award, State Level Excellence in Architecture and Education Award, INT BAU Award, and many more. A passion, total commitment, something to indulge in and enjoy is what Sir sees as architecture. He believes that architecture should be responsive to traditions, climate, context, and be environmentally and ecologically responsible. Contemporary vernacular, a term coined by him, which is broadly constituted by these fundamentals, is his forte. He draws his inspiration from everything around him, be it flowering buds, tiny roots, technology, prevailing trends, even humans of different nature, and designs with the best intricate details. His own practice, Smita and Habib Khan Architects, is primarily known for campus designs, institutions, and wildlife resorts. To name a few, he has worked with major hospitality groups like Taj, Citrus, Mahua, and Celebrations. Sir has also been invited to many international conferences as keynote speaker to Glasgow, Venice, Budapest, and several national conferences. He has been teaching since the beginning of his career and is currently the director at Priyadarshini Institute of Architecture and Design Studies in Nagpur and Lokmanya Tilak Institute of Architecture and Design Studies in Mumbai. His design teaching revolves around sensitizing students to their own heritage and roots, context, and climate within the framework of being modern. He has actively been working with the government of Maharashtra on few policy framing guidelines. An avid painter who has exhibited his excellent painting skills on Mahabharat, Ramayana, and Kabir, also dabbles in poetry and has written beautiful songs for Triple ID Natkan, Indore, Design Yatra, IIA Centenary Anthem, and the theme song for Beti Bachao Beti Padhao campaign. It is an immense pleasure to have you today with us, sir. Referring to
Thank
one
you.
of referring to one of the assets or the strongest pillars of our organization, whose massive support has led our family to prosper and stand here today, Dr. Padmakali Banerjee, the Pro Vice Chancellor of Amity University, Haryana, is a thought leader, public speaker, and life coach with over 27 years of experience in research, teaching, training, and academic administration. She has a doctorate degree from the University of Delhi and is a fellow of the prestigious Somatic Inkblot series. She heads Center for BRICS Studies, a center of excellence practice, research, and outreach. As the Pro-Vice Chancellor, she has been involved in strategic planning and leads the development and implementation of the university's academic processes. She spearheaded many innovative initiatives, including the introduction of a flexible credit system, industry academic integration, and internationalization. She is the recipient of prestigious 2018 Greenbelt Leadership Award for USGBC for her contribution towards environmental sustainability. She has received Award of Excellence from the prestigious Indian School Psychology Association for her contribution in the promotion of psychology. Her book, The Power of Positivity, Optimism, and the Seventh Sense, published by Sage, is a popular choice globally. Her research model, Peroma, has been registered as a trademark for imparting, counseling, educating, and training schedule amongst the organization and general public to improve life and abilities. She has developed a psychometric test, Optimism Index, a tool to measure optimism quotient, OQ. Her dream is to transform the world into a happier place to live in by instilling hope and optimism in today's youth. Ma'am, I request you to kindly address the participants.
Ma'am, you need to unmute yourself.
Thank you, Saloni. First of all, I must appreciate your beautiful delivery and the way you spoke from the heart and so much of positive emotion. So first of all, I really appreciate how you introduced eminent, architect, Dr. Khan, and all of that you have to say about him. And also thank you for introducing me. I must tell you that, I talk to youth almost last 3 months regularly. I'm interacting with the youth of India and also internationally. You know, all of you are really learners in crisis. So I think a bit of anxiety, stress are all normal, but not despair. So, nowadays you will see that the whole concept of even now from VUCA, it has moved to VUCA 2, which is talking about more on understanding and adaptability. So the future that I see, which is going to unfold, and to all of you, whether you're students of architecture or design or, you do arithmetic, it is going to be a new normal in terms of not just that we'll be post-COVID, but many things may also change for good. This disruptive innovations was taking place in the last decade. We saw the tremendous change that took place with the new media coming in, internet of things or internet of everything, how the way rapidly the entire landscape is changing, even the way academics and the classroom experience. At Amity, which is a research and innovation driven university, we started by introducing this flexibility to give students more choice in what they do. So one of the things that I really want to tell you that please hold strong. And this is also a time where all this youth of India have to prove themselves. Like, how are you going to be change makers? Not only receive what is coming to you. So I saw a beautiful way that I call the teachers and the architects or the experts as silent warriors during the times of COVID, whom we did not see. But the way I saw the education landscape moved from a real-time classroom experience to a blended learning or an online mode is tremendous. And for that, what we really have to think that this whole concept of digital India was in place, the internet was already there, so it became much easier, at least to the people, I would say, in the urban areas and where there were no problems in internet. But we also saw that how K-12 schools and higher education also took advantage of somewhere, even through television, people could get that experience of learning. It feels great that, we are introducing today and brought in somebody so, illustrious in his career. And one of the things that struck me is not just what the degrees that he has earned or for the great position that he is, but I see in him a creative and a passionate human being. So when I saw that he was interested in the life skills and the ability, and he's he is interested even in the diversity. So that talks a lot about what kind of people who are going to be successful tomorrow. Dr. Ela and the people at the School of Architecture, I know we are very proud that Amity University, Haryana is the first university in India to have a platinum LEED certified, green campus. So to take that forward, I think the kind of experience our students are getting on campus has been tremendous. Now the point is, now with this changing times, you have to look at and take note of the mixed realities. You have to take note of the simulation that is taking place. And so at this moment, you have to understand the concept. So many of you can come out with a lot of great ideas for patenting. You can on real time do business. You can in real time talk to people. I'm sure if this program, we would have been pursuing, Professor Khan and Dr. Khan to come and speak to you on other times, maybe it would have taken Dr. Ela much more time. But possibly due to we are all captive in our own spaces and we are saving so much time on travel. So this has come to us wonderfully well. I'm interested in really telling the youth that, please become lifelong learners. So today, even if you are missing out on 3 months of real-time learning, you have to be tomorrow the architects in creating that experience of how do you make yourself lifelong learners. So you need to really get into this whole concept of improving your competencies, not only in the technical competencies, but your behavioral competencies. So the entire book, in fact, that I think Saloni was talking about, which I have really spoken about, the whole concept of improving your resilience, your optimistic intelligence, that how do you handle uncertainty? How do you come back into action every time you're faced with an uncertain situation? So treat that, and I'm sure this, why I say you're learners of crisis, because none of us sitting here have seen a pandemic in our lifetime, but you are witnessing it. So you possibly would be more in a position to become great leaders of tomorrow. So I'm really looking at the great programs that, our School of Architecture is, actually teaching each one of you. And I know many of my students are connected to me. And today, we are open to this whole platform. The inhibitions that we had on a live dialogue, I could not have imagined about a year back. But today, see, we are on a platform, we are in a great dialogue. I love the word dialogue, which means a two-way communication. So as architects, you need to create that kind of the choices that you make, with whom you are collaborating, how you're handling the change, how are you going to be more creative, how do you look at critical thinking, and come out with something which will get more meaning not only to you, but to the others around you. So what I mean by saying that is, we are looking at tomorrow that in India, we are looking at taking the GDP to at least 7% so that, by 2030, we are getting into that situation in the world where we can meet with the sustainable developmental goals, which is a very important aspect. So as architect, you can really contribute towards SDG 8, 9, and many more, where we are talking about climate change, we are talking about how industries are going to function. So as youth, I would want each one of you, apart from listening to the experts, and today the whole session, Dr. Khan is going to spend to you his pearls of wisdom, which will give you very practical insight as to how you will utilize the time, what kind of workshops you can do. But also I would want each one of you to think through, go back and look at the 17 goals. How can you contribute? How can you as architects contribute even to the public health? What kind of hospitals are going to be the reality? You are seeing that, how sports are coming back now, but the stadiums are going to be, empty for at least a few years to come. So what are we going to do as an architect? Sit back and relax? You have to really look at those aspects. So the architects of tomorrow would be different leaders. They have to be, all-rounded, you have to have great knowledge, but you will have to have a lot of your intelligence that will come from understanding the environment. So with these words, and I must tell you that this whole school, when we built, it's a very beautiful, campus. And I would want Dr. Ela, you must invite Dr. Khan over once we are off the post-pandemic time, because we have a great infrastructure. It is a green, beautiful campus. There's an entire area which is a Ayush herbal garden. Plus, we have a amazing military training, leadership camps are held. So I think there are great things that we can see. And also at the end, I must tell you, I miss each one of you. Although I can say that this is great that we're able to interact, but I miss the noise. I miss the hustle bustle on the campus. But I'm sure with the right kind of movements and the things that the government is sure telling us to do, maintaining the social distance, taking care of your immune system, doing enough exercise, having great sleep, taking care, talking to your peer group, and learning. That's the one way to really make yourself feel good. For me, I mean, I'm going to treat this hour and a half with Dr. Khan and Dr. Hila and the entire faculty members as mindful meditation. I'm going to take away a lot. And I think this is one of the best days that I've had in this pandemic times, that I'm going to learn from all that we are going to have, from the dialogues that we are going to have today. And I want to wish you all well. And very soon we will see a very nice change world. Let us not go back to that world with pollution. Let us be more careful as architects and environmentalists. And many of you may become entrepreneurs and change agents. So get equip those skills and competencies in you, which will make, and you can make a difference to your life and the people you care. And at the end, be a good human being. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I request Architect Habib Khan to address all the art participants who are eager to listen to him before the question and answer session.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for, first of all, inviting me and giving me this opportunity to interact with all of you. And Dr. Padmakali, Dr. Ila and Saloni, and all the other deans and heads and faculty and students of Amity and other universities which are present here. Warm greetings from the Council of Architecture. I am very impressed with what Dr. Padmakali just said. And I'm sure the kind of leadership that you have, so much of enthusiasm, so much of energy, and such wise words, I'm sure Amity is in good hands. And a little rubbing of that enthusiasm, I'm sure, is happening in the faculty as well as among the students. I think you're really fortunate to have such leadership in your university. And thank you, Saloni, for such a fluent introduction. And coming from a student, it's really, really credit-worthy. And thank you, Ila, for inviting me here. I would like to not speak too much because I would give more time to the question and answers and interaction. It's more democratic that way. But I just want to tell you a couple of things. Council is a regulatory authority, and it governs and regulates architectural profession as well as architectural education. And students of architecture are, of course, our future, and you are going to be future architects. And it is a pleasure to work for you all. And I want to assure you that a lot of changes are happening in the council. A lot of issues are being brought up, and various fields are being looked into and addressed. And I want to assure you and make you aware that all that is happening in the council, I'm sure you would have been observing and seeing the changes that are happening in the council. It is for you, the students, because you are the future of my country. And whatever work we are doing, whatever efforts we are taking, these efforts are for the betterment of your future, for the respect of your profession, and for making you better individuals. So you have to keep that in mind. And like Dr. Banerjee said in the end, that you have to be a good human in the end. There has been a lot of distress, and there has been a lot of discontent among the fraternity, and not only the fraternity, but the entire humanity because of this pandemic. But if you see historically, we have had worse times. We have had world wars, we have had Spanish flu, bubonic plague, and so many other pandemics that have happened, and lots of people have sacrificed their lives, have lost their lives in these difficult times. And our world is also going through a similar time, and we have to look ahead. We have to look forward. The world has not stopped, or the humanity has not been wiped out in spite of all these adverse situations that have come on the world. Human being is a very resilient species, and I'm sure of us would be springing, but that springing back to action and normalcy, whenever it comes, has to come with a rider. We humans have been absolutely selfish, absolutely, kind of self-centered, have not cared for other species, have not cared for our Mother Earth, have not cared for the environment. We have trampled this earth in our pursuit of happiness, so-called happiness, development, and the results are there to see. This pandemic has not broken our world, but has shown a broken world to us. We have to introspect and think where we went wrong and how are we going to be normal after the pandemic is over, hopefully soon. And let us not commit the same mistakes that we have committed earlier as a human race. We have wiped out 50% of the other species that exist on this earth. We have wiped out forest cover in the last 100 years in the pursuit of development and the rat race that we are all running for. I don't know what rat race we are running in. It is time that we look at the whole economic model on which the world runs. Billions and billions of dollars, trillions of dollars are so fragile, or the entire system has been so fragile that in these last 60 days or 90 days, it has crumbled and it's coming down, so much so that the survival has become a issue with the population. So we need to really think, we need to degrow. Degrow means you step aside, look where you're going, what you're doing, and look at the concept of the GDPs, look at the concept of those charts and figures and Sensex indexes and things like that. Is it necessary? Do we really need that? And what, if not, would be the new way? What would be the new normal is to be thought of. And I think and I feel that architects per se, students of architecture are in a situation to address this issue in a much wiser and a much better manner. And I expect that the students of architecture would look into this very sensitively and tell the world and tell the society how and what should be the new world order. Other things, other mundane things of the regulation and of the issues concerning judgments, and we will discuss, and I'll try addressing it as much as I can. But at a philosophical level, at a larger level, we as students of learned enough. You kind of learn about civilizations, you learn about society, you learn about economy, you learn about so many other things apart from your trade, that I hope you are in a better situation to address these vitally important issues. And the time that we all went through in the last 3 months and probably a couple of more months, I personally have realized that this has been a boon in disguise for me. I've been traveling 20 to 25 days a month, so much so that there were days or weeks that I've not come home or seen my family. It has affected health, it has affected time schedules and everything. But this lockdown has really shown me a more efficient way to work, a more comfortable way to work, a more stress-free way to work. And you would realize that in the last 3 months, the activities that have been happening in the council and otherwise have been stepped up so drastically that we have addressed the issues of the pandemic. We have addressed the issues emerging out of the pandemic in education, in profession, and so many other things. And I, on an average, have calculated for myself that I have saved about 3 to 4 hours a day. You go to a meeting, then you travel there, then you wait there, and things like that. And the best part that has happened, which I really, really love, is that every meeting, every program, every convention happening online starts right on dot. And that's a discipline that all of us have learned. And I hope we all look at things after the pandemic in a more positive manner. We're conducting online classes. The faculty, the teachers have risen up to the situation, so much so that uh, they have been equal warriors and have gone unacknowledged. We acknowledged our soldiers, our army, the police, the bureaucrats, the doctors, the nurses, allied professionals. But all of us forgot the teachers who have risen to teach and continue the academics, not let the students suffer from their homes, from their, whatever difficult circumstances they all were in, but they have risen. And I want to acknowledge each and every teacher, not only of architecture, but all fields and all teachers in general, who have really contributed in continuing and not breaking the chain of academics. And I take this occasion to formally thank all the teachers who have been here. But let us seriously think, after the pandemic is over, let's not rush back to normal. Let us think of optimum utilization of our resources, of our infrastructure. If we are able to teach online, why not teach online for a little more while or permanently? Duplicate or use multiple times our available infrastructure and our resources, and so on and on. I mean, there's a lot to talk about, but I guess I have conveyed you the gist of the whole thing. And once again, thank you for inviting me. And I'm honored to meet Dr. Banerjee, Hila, and Saloni, and all of you through this online medium. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That is truly inspirational. Thank you for setting the tone of a very healthy and essential dialogue. Thank you very much, PVC ma'am, for your words of wisdom and time. We now end the inaugural address and start the Q&A session, which is most awaited by our fellow students. The session will
Thank you. 1 second, I must say that Dr. Khan, most of what you said is something that we should make a complete, understanding of way forward. And I think I'm going to ask Dr. Hila to take this, even after the session, we can plan an interaction to understand what is the way forward and some of the ways that we want to really, and you really inspire, and I'm really looking forward that, our youth can take away at least few of those thoughts. And one thing which is very important, which you talked about, is of course that, the way ahead is going to be very different. And this is something that I think we are resonating, that even I feel that we need to really get into a new normal, which is really going to be novel new normal. So thank you for that. So now please carry on, Saloni.
Thank you so much, ma'am. The Q&A session will be moderated by Dr. Ila Gupta, Director of Amity School of Architecture and Planning, Gurugram. She has a B.Arch from BRC in Nagpur, Master of Urban Planning and Rural Planning from IIT Roorkee, and PhD in Earthquake Disaster Management from IIT Roorkee. Her qualifications also include PGDM in HR and PR from Madras University. She has worked as a consultant for UNDP, Government of Punjab, Ministry of Home Affairs, Government of India for various projects related to earthquakes, and has widely published articles in journals and books. Previously, she was the director of MBA School of Architecture and Planning, Indraprasth University in New Delhi, and was heading the PhD program at Sushant School of Architecture and Planning, Ansal University in Gurugram. Ma'am, I request you to please initiate the Q&A session.
Thank you, Saloni. Many thanks to Dr. Padmakali Banerjee and Habib sir for the inspiring words. Let's start the Q&A session. So, sir, I heard in one of your interviews you were saying you want to create an environment where everyone will be on a common platform, holding each other's hand and working together. So, and this stands most relevant today, where many of the students are finding it difficult to see their path ahead in education, especially in the coming semester. So right now, no one knows how this pandemic will progress and when will the things be back to normal. In this situation, we have received a large number of questions related to changes in the architectural education in the pandemic times and also the post-COVID times. So like why Nimika Devi from Amity, Kolkata says that there is no replacement for outdoor work and online classes actually compromising the practical studies. Strajati Tiwari from Bundelkhand Universities wants to know, can we actually organize the virtual study trips in this regard? There are many students from
So Ela, would
Vasudha.
you like to go one by one?
Ma'am, they are all similar questions, can be addressed together. So we have
But
to
maybe
group
two
them.
questions together, otherwise it's too many questions.
Okay. Hello. Yeah. So, yeah, even some students want to know about the group work which architecture students do. They generally work in groups, especially in the urban design projects, where they go to the sites in groups, lots of discussions happen, and finally they produce designs together. So, all these students, they want to know, like, how is this pandemic going to affect the education system as a whole? So in a nutshell, all these students, basically they are saying they want to know that our education is primarily field based, and outdoor learning through site visits, case studies and study tours are important aspects of our pedagogy. So do you think this new age technology driven education is effective for fields like architecture? So what do you think should be the major changes made in the educational approach because of this pandemic?
See, there is no replacement for face-to-face or person-to-person interaction. You may meet your loved one or your friends or your teachers uh, online for hours, for days. But the element of hugging someone, shaking hands, and being in their presence, the aura that you have, everyone has an aura, and that aura, interaction of that aura cannot be replaced by an online method or online portals. That is for sure. Architectural education is what you call uh, is a little different. We all think that we are different than engineering or any other professional stream or non-professional stream, and the way we learn is very unique. There is some truth into this. I'm not denying it is not. But tough times means tough decisions and also means tough people. With a hope, with eternal hope that things will get back to normal pretty soon. And we will get back to our face-to-face physical learning very soon. How we do that, when we do that, only time will tell. No one will be able to predict it at the moment. But the personal interaction that happens in an architectural school during the architectural education is very vital, and it cannot be replaced by anything, any online portal, any virtual portal. It cannot be done. That is for sure. As far as site visits are concerned, as far as study tours are concerned, of course, you cannot replace it. You can virtually see the world sitting on your laptop or on your system. But the very vital, you can hear sounds, you can hear, you can see, you can do so many things, but you cannot smell the earth. You cannot smell the country or the place that you have visited. You cannot touch and see things or people. So this is a very vital aspect that we will definitely miss, and nothing can replace that. Same is applicable to architectural education. Same is applicable to actual practical learning. But it has to be understood by all of us that uh, change has to be there, and we have to embrace change. Without embracing change, being resistant to it, is not going to work. There have been a lot of students who have been resisting final year thesis juries and so on and on. How can we show such huge sheets on a small screen of a laptop? But that's resistance to change. We need to understand that, like I said, tough times, difficult times, exceptional times need exceptional thought process and exceptional means to solve it, and exceptional people to accept that change. So till then, we have to be doing whatever is available to us in the best possible manner. But I accept that we cannot replace one-to-one, face-to-face interaction with a teacher, with fellow students. Group work is a learning that you cannot replicate. That's the most important element, component of an architectural student. All these things will be back, I'm sure. And till then, we have to just bear with it.
Some students like Govind Nair from Amity Jaipur wants to know that are we going to change the architecture course curriculum because of the pandemic and the new dimensions it has brought in? Or I think Vidur is asking from Amity Gurugram that are we going to change the education approach to the entire architectural education now, since we have shifted to the online mode and now there is no going back?
I want to ask a counter question. If your finger is injured, do you cut off the finger? Or if your hand gets fractured, do you cut off that hand? You don't. The same, it's just a small injury in mankind, and we'll get over it. Architectural education needs a relook, needs a rehaul is an independent question, which has to be looked into by all of us. Nothing to do with the pandemic. So, if there's a on the road of architectural education, there's a red light that we have stopped at. When you stop at a red light, probably you fiddle with your mobile phone, see a couple of messages, and see here and there and move ahead. So we will also move ahead after the red light turns green. That doesn't mean that we'll change our cars or scooters or our paths. But architectural education needs to be relooked at, needs to introspect and find out where we are going wrong. First of all, accept that we are going wrong. That's the biggest acceptance that we should have, that we are going wrong somewhere. Else, we would not be producing the kind of architecture, kind of cities that our country is producing. We need to really, really look into this. And architectural education is the core and the root cause of all that. And we need to look at it not because of the pandemic, but because of what it is at the moment.
Here I would also like to add, like we keep saying the term on being on the other side of the table. So teachers always used to be on the other side of the table. So now with this online learning and teaching platform, we are all on one side now, and physically and conceptually, we are all occupying the same space. And so there is a cultural shift towards that we all are equal, everybody is helping each other, and which is one of the positive things of being online. So, along with education, there are a few growing concerns in the student fraternity regarding the recent Supreme Court ruling. So, although enough has been said and written about the issue, but many students are still anxious about, because they read the small news in the leading newspaper which said no bar on architecture work for not being qualified. So that is kind of worrying them. So there is not much clarity among the students about the Architects Act 1972 and the recent Supreme Court judgment, which allows non-registered architects to design buildings. So in this regard, we have received a few questions. I will just give a gist of all the questions which we have got so that you know what kind of questions are there in the minds of students. So Shikha Agrawal from Amity Raipur wants to know, has council taken any steps against the ruling? Rajdeep Sinha from Amity Kolkata wants to know now how we are going to validate the licenses of the registered architects now. Then Sarthak Jain wants to know again what steps CEO is taking in this regard. One Miss Alakhya Pandey from MIT Lucknow even wants to know that why was Council of Architecture wasn't able to convince the Supreme Court that architects are the only suitable individuals for designing and developing the space. So students are a little worried and anxious about this judgment, and they still don't have clarity because it's still a recent one. So maybe we would like you to clarify it for your students.
There has been not a single seminar or interaction that people have not asked this question. Half of the queries and the doubts arise because of the fact, I say ignorance. I'm not sure how many of you have actually read the judgment. I'm also not sure how many of you have read the act verbatim. So, we need to do that first of all. So what I will try to answer all the questions and very briefly tell you about the act as well as the Supreme Court judgment. Any act of the government and the parliament is made for the protection of the common people, number one. The problem with our fraternity was that we took the Architect Act to be ours for our benefit and our, you know, uh, positivity. But Architects Act is made for the general public, for them to be aware of what an architect is, what architectural services means, and how they should be aware or they should become aware of fraudulent practices, wrong practices, unethical practices, and to make them aware as to what an architect does, how much he charges, and so on, so on and on. And that is the basic purpose of any act. But architects took it on upon themselves that Architects Act is for them. There's nothing wrong in that. It's a normal human. Title uh, avoided defining mind in the other professions like medicine and law and pharmacy and nursing and so on. The Supreme Court judgment is nothing new. Similar have been delivered by many high courts earlier, and Supreme Court took this upon itself in one of the cases to define architectural services and to find out what is the role of an architect. Supreme Court has done nothing new, and the justice, the bench, in their wisdom, interpreted what is written in the act. The role of a court, any court of law, is to interpret, but there is something which is called the larger interest of the written word. By this judgment, I wouldn't say that it is wrong. It is not my wisdom to question the Supreme Court judge saying that the judgment has been wrong, but the judges have interpreted what is written in the act. So there are a couple of options in front of us where we need to amend the act to define architectural services, and when that happens, things will be taken care of automatically. But we are also appealing against the judgment, and we have the option to appeal. There are about 3 or 4 appeals that are being filed. I think some of them already have been filed, and some will be filed in the coming week. So we are not questioning, but we are appealing to the Supreme Court that there are certain aspects that you have missed, and the biggest aspect of biggest oversight of that aspect is that what is the purpose of the act? The purpose of the act is itself defeated by this judgment. If the purpose of the act, the preamble says that common people should become aware of fraudulent practices or should not be approaching a non-qualified architect, that purpose is basically defeated. So the essence and the spirit of the act has been defeated by this judgment, and we are questioning that. We are requesting the bench to look into it again. And there are many other aspects of jurisprudence that we feel have been overlooked, and we are putting an appeal, filing an appeal, and I'm sure it will be looked sympathetically. If it is not, we have other options open. Like I told you, the amendment is one of the options. So the sky hasn't fallen over your heads. In 1972, when the act was enacted, the situation was same. Today, the situation is same. Not a single word, comma, apostrophe, full stop, nothing has been removed from the act. It has been same. But from few hundred architectural schools in 1972 to few thousand practicing architects, we are 1 lakh plus practicing architects. We are 464 architecture colleges. Architectural profession per se in general has bloomed, and the awareness of an architect in the society has increased tremendously in spite of the act being there. So just don't get disheartened by few opportunistic professions or individuals taking advantage of this and trying to break you mentally and psychologically. There's no need to do that. I am sure in smaller towns as well, not only metros, people do approach an architect and to design your house or to design your office or to design a single room, a bedroom or whatever. And they're aware now. It is up to us to look intrinsically inside us and excel in what we are doing, make ourselves indispensable to the society that you cannot do without architects. And that is what we should concentrate on rather than concentrating on safeguarding our profession, making it watertight, and not allowing anyone else to come in. Uh, as a client, if you see, and I speak generally, no one can stop me from designing my own house. No one can stop me from going to anyone to design my house. There is no necessity that only an architect is to be employed. Come to think of it. But when it comes to public projects, when it comes to larger projects, there is a responsibility, there is an onus of commitment, and there is not only commitment, but the quality of spaces, the quality of built environment that you create, the quality of urban presence that you have is all very important. And I'm sure if you have to design a lakh square feet, 10 lakh square feet of space, you're not going to hire an engineer or a non-qualified architect to do your job. So things are not bad. Let us look at the positive aspects. And the most important thing, and my advice to youngsters is, nothing has happened which will kill your profession. You will kill your profession yourself by your negative thoughts and by your lack of confidence. So you need to understand that you have to excel. You have to be committed in what you're doing. You have to show the society that the house that you're designing or the building that you have designed or the spaces that you're creating are far, far better than anyone else. And that will come when we are sure and confident of what we are and what we can do and how better we can do. And there's a Hindi Urdu शेर that I recite कि मैं वो चराग हूँ जो आंधियों में रोशन था, मैं वो चराग हूँ जो आंधियों में रोशन था, खुद अपने घर की हवा ने बुझा दिया है मुझे. Which means that we are going to kill our own profession. We don't need anyone else to come and kill it. We are killing it by this uncertainty in our minds. We are killing it by the lack of strength in our own selves and lack of commitment in our own selves. So we don't need to do that. We need to be very sure of ourselves. We need to excel, like I said, and make indispensable to the society. That architects are indispensable to the society. And when that happens, everything will be clear, as is, in fact, much better than it was. I hope I have answered all the questions.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that is surely quite reassuring and motivating for the future architect. Sir, a lot of our final year and 2020 batch students who will be joining the profession now for internships or for jobs or starting their own practice also seek your wise advice in this matter. So they have also written us lots of questions, and since Saloni is also a final year student and she is also in the same boat, I'll ask her to interact with you in this matter.
Thank you, ma'am. Sir, how do you think our profession will abide by the present COVID-19 situations? As we know, a lot of business and construction projects are being shut down and people are going jobless. How has this pandemic affected the field work in a long run? Similar questions are being asked by Anvesha and Dipto from Amity, Kolkata, that what is the right time to begin our own practice, especially after the pandemic? Also, where can a young startup find projects during this time? Nikhil from Amity University, Kolkata is asking that what are our prospects as freshers in the field when major companies are laying off employees at a time of recession? Vikas Sharma from Amity University, Jaipur wants to inquire about an issue of payment where a lot of times the client, builder, or developer blocks the payment. So, will the situation worsen in this pandemic?
See, these are questions which honestly I cannot answer as a president of the council or personally as an architect. No one knows what the situation would be. What we know at the moment is that economy is at a standstill. It was already very slow. pre-pandemic, and it has, like I told you, crumbled after the pandemic. So we don't know. And see, uh, let us understand one thing, that we are in a profession which is on the border of being luxurious. Majority content of our profession is on the border of being luxurious. You can postpone building your house. You can postpone building your infrastructure projects. You can postpone doing interiors of your house or office or your institute or whatever. You can postpone it for a while. So yes, the creation of jobs, creation of projects, and when they will start, how they will start, is an answer which no one can give at the moment. I'm sure the Prime Minister also cannot give you this answer at the moment if you ask. The question is, uh, for the young architects who are just graduating and coming into practice, it's a tough time, not only for you, but for us senior architects also, it's a tough time where the smooth running of projects, where continuity of projects, inflow of money, all of it has become difficult and has been almost stopped for some time now. And we don't know when they will come back. Even if the money is starting to be pumped up into the economy, into the projects, ultimately, the issue of the migrant laborers who are the major workforce on your projects is also a thing to be addressed. Their confidence level is also to be addressed. Their safety, security, and concerns are also to be addressed before the project start. So I don't foresee that happening for a year or so. So this year is going to be really, really tough for all of you. So if you want to start your practice on your own independently, you can. There is no restriction, but you will not have an easy time because established offices are also not having an easy time. It's a tough time. But to be honest, personally, I feel that I started my practice as soon after working for about a year or two abroad. I came back and started my own practice, and I think that was a mistake that I did. I should have worked with someone for at least a couple of years, minimum 4 to 5 years, gained the experience of various aspects and various nitty-gritties of the profession, and then started my practice. And I advise all the students and all the young architects to get that, because see, you are a consultant. You're an architectural consultant, an architect consultant. And why does the client come to you? You have to think about this. The client comes to you because he feels that you will be able to do justice to his project. Number one, he likes your work, and he feels and he is sure that you are more knowledgeable than him in this aspect. Just like you go to a doctor because you know you can't operate yourself, or you can't give a cure or prescribe medicine for your own self. That's why you go to a doctor, because he knows more than you. Similarly, a client comes to you because he thinks that he doesn't know what you know. So to gain that confidence, you have to have confidence in yourself. And that comes when you are a little experienced, when you know the nitty gritties, when you know how the client is going to please you, when you know how, what he means by when he says this, and so on and on, you know. So that is a very important aspect. And secondly, understand one thing, that when you go to the market to buy a small little pen of 10 rupees, and if the cap is broken or if there's a scratch, you don't buy it, right? Any other product, I mean, leave aside 10 rupees or I mean anything else. You go buy a chewing-gum and the packet has a hole in it, you will not buy it. Here, the client is entrusting lakhs and lakhs of rupees, crores of rupees to you. So why should he accept bad service or lack of professionalism or lack of concept of thoughts in his projects? Imagine, you know, a client spending a crore of rupees, 50 lakhs of rupees, it is being spent through you. So you have to have that confidence, you have to have that knowledge, and you have to have that, what you call, the aura to deliver the project and make the client happy. And that comes with a little experience. So I always advise my young friends to be employed somewhere, work in association with someone, and then come to architectural practice. By the time this pandemic will also pass.
Thank you, sir. So my friend Bharat says work from home is not preferred for interns in many firms. How do we acquire an internship in this situation without compromising our safety and of those around us?
This is a problem created by our own fraternity. Uh, by our own fraternity, I mean by our own architects who are established and who are senior. We are very selfish, self-centered, and I'm not speaking generally, but I'm just, giving my inner thoughts. I may be 100% wrong in this. And that is what I mean by holding hands. You know, that is what I mean by being on the same side of the table. You are not ashamed to pay an intern or not pay an intern. And to such an extent, our moral degradation has happened that we demand money from the interns to do internship in our offices. So that is the low morale that we are actually, touching. We are also not ashamed to pay an amount which is lesser than my driver to an architect who has just joined. So this is something that we architects need to look into. This is something that our fraternity should look into. If we are not going to respect our interns, if we are not going to respect our junior and younger fresher graduates who have come to join our offices, then how do you expect society to respect you? So this is a thought process which we need to understand ourselves and which we need to look into as to what we are doing. Immediate economic financial gains is obviously the reason for this. And I have been talking to a lot of architects regarding this issue of work from home for interns. I fail to understand, and most of the time the architects have told me that these chap don't work in office. How come they're going to work from home, and what kind of work they produce from home? If an intern has come to your office, it is your moral duty when you have accepted that intern to train him. He has come there as a trainee. It is your moral responsibility to train. And you could do that, or you could have done that from home as well when he was sitting at home. There was no reason. I will not, I am no one to forgive, but this is a grudge that I'll have in my heart that my fraternity have failed my own fraternity. So this is a thought which each and every architect should look into and introspect and find out why they're doing it like this. When you don't respect your architect's friend who have just joined you, how do you expect that society will respect you in general? This is a thought process that one needs to think into. And also to circumvent this issue, we have done in our own institute, and we are also asking and encouraging other institutes to develop modules of practical training. Students who are sitting at home are not being allowed to join offices, or they cannot join offices, or they are not being given work from home. We are asking the institutes to come up with a module which uh, will be able to equate with what they do in an architectural office. And we are doing it very successfully in our institute. And our students are just loving it, and they are not, they don't have any qualms or no complaints about it, because the module that we have developed is equivalent to as if working in an office. One of the faculty becomes a client, another faculty becomes an architect. They demand the same kind of timeline, same kind of rigorous work that is needed in an office, and students are loving it. So there are ways to find and means out. And if there's substantial number of architect students who are not getting places in architects or work from architects offices, it is the institute which has to rise up to this occasion, because ultimately institutes also have to realize that it is their moral responsibility to train the student in architectural practice or in real practice as well. But institutes have taken it for granted that sending the student away for 6 months or 1 year absolves them of that responsibility. No, it does not. So it is the moral responsibility of the institutes as well to take care of this training in these exceptional times.
Okay. Sir, another friend of mine, Arun Gupta, says that it is being said that an exit exam will be conducted for the students applying for the license in COA after the completion of their 5-year course. The intent of this exam is said to check the eligibility of the student when whether he or she is fit to practice this profession or not. So he would like to ask you that why is this step necessary? Because in order to become an architect, a student has to pursue this journey, which fulfilled the criteria, eligibility criteria for a qualified architect. But if the reason revolves around the malpractice in this field, how do you think it can be eliminated without conducting this exam?
No. The question is either fed or is prompted, because I am sure the content of the question questions are almost equivalent to what I've been hearing from other forums. It is a half truth. First of all, the exit exam that we're calling, it's calling a professional qualifying examination, which will happen after the amendments are done. At the moment, no. There's a different reason to all this. We are not questioning the integrity of the institutes. We are not questioning the quality of the architectural graduates that are coming in. We are not questioning or testing the capability of an architecture student who has just graduated, whether he is fit to practice or not. No, we are not doing that. We are sure of our institutes. We are sure of the quality of education that is happening. If it is lacking, I'm sure in time to come, that will be also augmented. I'm not worried about that. What we are worried about is accountability. What we're worried about is responsibility and the commitment that you have towards your practice. What we're worried about is globalization and its acceptance everywhere. We want to be at par with all the other countries in the world. We want to be at par with the kind of architectural services that we provide. We want to be at par with, not internationally, but arrive at a suitably acceptable quality of services that we give. We want to ensure that the architect who is responsible for doing a project, a public project, is also responsible for the safety and security of the occupants and the users. We are worried about we also want our architect to be accountable to the concept of intangible benefits or non-benefits that his work entails. For example, the well-being, the quality of life that an architect provides to its users. So all these things are very important. We Indians have the uncanny habit, I'm being a little brutal, but of circumventing law. We are very good at, catching the nose from this side or that side or from wherever you would want to, as long as it is beneficial to you. We have design architects, we have project architects, and on the same project, we have architect on record. What does this mean? You don't want to take responsibility of the work that you're doing? This is not acceptable to us or to us as responsible citizens. If I am designing a building, I want to sign that building and take the responsibility of that building wherever it is built in the country or abroad. I want to take responsibility of that. I want to take entire responsibility of that building. And that is lacking at the moment because the project architect, or sorry, the architect on record, whoever signs the municipal drawings is the actual architect of that project, and he takes the responsibility and not the main architect. These are some of the issues that we are looking into. These are some of the issues or concerns that need to be addressed. Secondly, the present setup of a professional council, of most of the professional council, not only architecture, but all other professions, is flawed. For the simple reason that the standard setting body is also the regulatory authority and is also the implementing authority and is also the registration authority. All these 3-4 things rolled into one is not acceptable. This leads to moral corruption. This leads to other corruptions as well. We are of the opinion that the standard setting body and the regulatory authority has to be an independent entity. Now, when that happens, council cannot regulate architectural education or should not regulate architectural education. Now, when that happens, I am talking of another reason. And when that happens, although we are sure of the regulatory authority which will come into place, the council per se will not know what kind of education has gone into an architect or becoming an architect. And this professional qualifying examination is one test where we say you have 10 faculty, you have 1 faculty, you have 0 faculty. We don't worry about it. Your product, your output, which is a student, a fresh graduate, should qualify in this examination to become qualified to be a practicing architect. There's nothing wrong in this. It is happening in the entire world, except few countries. I don't want to name them, but except few countries in the world. It's a standard practice. I have been accused, say, first of all, look into your own house rather than looking abroad what the others are doing. I'm not worried about that. We have to have professional practicing architects providing absolutely highest level of architectural services. And that this qualifying examination will ensure that. And how, time will tell, and how, when the policy is being rolled out, we will tell you. There are a lot of people who speculate, who thinks that they are the leaders, they are the so-called thinkers, philosophers, who will immediately jump to this conclusion and go to the social media and prove themselves that they are either activists or they are high-level thinkers of the society, and will start commenting freely without understanding. But you need to really, really look into this whole process. So when the council is not the regulator, so we say you come from whichever background you would want to come, but you have to, for registration, you have to have this qualification. And if your school or if your university is fit enough to produce students, will survive. Otherwise, they will not survive. It's as simple as that. We have to ensure that the professional qualifying examination, the framework, and what will happen to the existing architects, continuing education practices, how the licensing will happen, how the examination will happen, what corruption will come in. We will have coaching classes for the professional qualifying examination. We'll have books and we have guides and question set of papers and so on and on. We have to all circumvent that, and we have to find out a framework which will take care of all these things and malpractices. Otherwise, not falling into the same trap. We'll have to work out, a lot of work has to be done on that. But I want to assure everyone that professional qualifying examination does not question your ability, does not stop you from practice, does not stop you from anything else. It only ensures quality. It only tries to improve the architectural practices. And we have to understand that the nature of architectural practice has changed in the last 40, 50 years. When you become an architect, after you graduate and get a degree, at the moment you can get registered directly to be a practicing architect without testing your credentials, whether you are able to practice or not. What I've just said in the last question, my answer to the last question. Today, 38% architects are employed architects. 38% of the architects are employed architects. 20% are employed teachers. That makes it 58%. 6 to 8% are in partnership, and about 18% are owning their own firms or are architects, practicing architects. By graduating and getting hold of a degree, there are so many other avenues and aspects that you, as a trained student of architecture, can do. You can be an employed architect, you can be in partnership, you can be a director in a private limited company, you can teach, you can do anything else except sign your projects and be a practicing architect. That will happen when you qualify. Now you have, today you accept, very willingly you accept that you have to be a PhD to become a director or a vice chancellor, don't you? Why don't you question that? Why don't you not question that there has to be a 3 years of, let's say, experience for a teacher to come in and teach? No one questions that. Why don't you not question your client when he says, no, you don't have the experience, you need at least 100 crore project to, get this project. You don't question that. But you want to question when I am saying, if you want to practice architecture and be the leader of the team and be the captain of the team, you don't need anything else except a degree. So this is a paradox that we all are living in, and the conflict of thought that is happening. This has to be removed from your minds, and be rest assured that a professionally qualified architect, a licensed architect, will change your profession for good. That I am 100% sure of.
So, so I'm sure that the exit exam will actually ensure quality, and there is still some time for that. I'm sure after doing all the hard work for 5 years, that should not be a problem for our students to pass for that exam. So that leads us to the next question, where we know that we already know that most of the architects are doing well, but their growth starts in the later years of their profession. So the early few years are not that rosy. There is lot of struggle, and most of the times, like as you rightly said, so the salaries or the payments, the remuneration they get for their services are not that high as compared to the other fields. So that is a concern for many students who are saying that it's a long course, it's a 5 years course, and even after that, since we are not getting paid enough, so that is it is little demoralizing. So can council do something about it? So this question is coming from Ms. Shivani from Amity, Lucknow, Laviditya Shruti Sharma from Vastukala, Govind Nair from Amity, Jaipur. So and few more students. But I think you already
Oh,
explained. Yeah.
first of all, council is not God. It's not an answer to all your problems. Understand. Secondly, there is a problem definitely with the lower salary structure that is there for architectural graduates. Even when you become a little senior 4 or 5 years, still you don't get paid as much as the other professions get paid. There are a couple of things responsible for this. Number one, architectural education is oriented towards an individualistic practice of architecture, where you have your own office and you become your own consultant and you employ people. That is how our education is oriented, although the focus of the outcome and the current situation does not demand. So like I just said, 38% architects are, approximately 38% architects are employed architects. While we do not teach, our education system does not address the issue of architects being employed. We are still living in that fountainhead world of Howard Rourke, where the architect was God or was the creator of, that egoistic person. And I'm not blaming the education system at all. What I am saying is architectural profession is like a marathon. It's not a 100-kilometer dash, 100-meter dash, where you would know the winner, the fastest man or woman on earth, you would know. And probably he or she would be a hero of the society. You will not know who's the winner of a marathon, 40-kilometer marathon or 20-kilometer marathon. You will never know that man. Architectural profession is like a marathon. You have to be slow.
I think there is a technical issue with sir. Uh, let's try to get it back.
Sorry, I think there was some break in between.
Yes, sir.
So I was telling you, architectural is like a marathon race where the winner of that race goes unacknowledged, but it is that patience which will pay you ultimately in the long run. If you see in a city, if you see in a society, architects are one of the best, highest income taxpayers and one of the top levels of economic circle or whatever. But it comes with patience, it comes with commitment, it comes with a lot of dedication. So don't lose heart. If your contemporary gets paid double than what you're getting paid, 3 times than what you're getting paid, it's fine. But in the long run, you will not even compare with that person who's getting paid more than you at the moment. And that's a reality that we all need to face. But there is definitely a aspect of lack of patience in the younger generation, lack of understanding and comparison between the contemporaries of the younger generation. There are people who are taking loans to study architecture. They have to pay back their loans. They have to take care of the families. These issues are definitely there, and that is what we all have to come forward and brainstorm on how to address these issues. Only council cannot do it.
So there is also one concern, like among the students, like many times students are told by architects when they go for internships or maybe their seniors who have been in practice that entering into profession is entirely different than education and you have to start learning all over again. So that is also little concern for the students. Sometimes they feel, "Okay, can we bridge this gap?" So something like you in the COVID times, you uh, continued. So since they could not go for internships, so teachers they gave them some practical
See,
experience.
the answer to this is like a bhel, when you eat that street side bhel. There are many mixed issues involved. Practicing architects specifically feel pride and feel good in saying that what have your school taught? कुछ तो सिखाया नहीं यार अभी तुम चलो मैं सिखाता हूँ तुमको. They feel a little pride in probably establishing the fact that they are better than the schools. To be honest. Number two, they do this to give them lower salaries. And there might be other issues which, if I say, people will not probably like it. But there are issues involved in that. There are other issues involved. Academicians do not practice or are not allowed to practice, and so on and on. So there's a gap which has come in. Architectural education has to be apprentice based. Architectural education has to be on hands practice and training. And that is lacking in our schools as well, in our entire system as well. And we need to think about it as to how to do it. But there certainly is a gap. Let us accept it. Our schools have failed to produce a product. I'm sorry, I'm calling my student a product, but our schools have failed to make a product or produce a product which is saleable in the market. You can produce a very beautiful and a good looking refrigerator or television, but if it doesn't work well, but if it falls short in the service that it needs to provide, it will not sell in the market. And same thing is happening with our architecture graduates. I'm sorry, but that is what it is at the moment. And the academia needs to look into it. We need to think as teachers how to improve this whole situation. And architects also need to introspect and find out that it is also their responsibility in the society to hold hands and augment if a student is lacking or a trainee who is coming. Although they would say he is coming in as a trained architect, and why should I do that? Why should I spend my money? But that is your CSR, corporate social responsibility, which the architectural fraternity does not indulge into. So that is your CSR. I'm sorry, I would have ruffled feathers, but I don't care.
Yeah. So there are certain questions which are not related to the pandemic times and all, but since you have such good experience in architecture, so we would love to address those. So there is a question related to style of architecture or the school of thought which this school has. Uh, like there is a architectural identity which every architect possesses, which gets somehow influenced by the school which the person is passing out from. So Shreya Raidu from Amity University Raipur wants to ask, so does this affect hiring also? So does hiring architects get affected by graduating from different schools with different schools of thought?
First of all, I'm not sure if the architects know what school of thought is or what school of thought a particular school has.
But generally
I'm
schools have,
honest.
yeah.
Honest. No, schools may have, but whether the practicing architect is aware of that's a really question that one every needs to ask themselves.
Yeah. That means not
But
much.
yes, it does affect in the sense that the kind of student, huh? But at least yes, I mean, if a school follows a particular thought process, it does affect the student to a great extent, to some extent, and to no extent, depending on the way how sensitive and how absorbent the student is. But it does not affect in hiring. It does not affect in your employment prospects or whatever. It doesn't affect. There are students whom I can, by their way of talking, say that they belong to a particular school and she belongs to a particular school. By their way of talking, I can, with my experience, I can point out. I don't want to name the institutes, but I can point out. But that doesn't affect the kind of your work, the quality of work, and your quality of approach, dedication, commitment, and the technicality of drawings and your application of mind to a particular problem and a concept. What matters actually, which institute you come from, doesn't matter at all.
Yeah. There is one interesting question coming from some students. So they want to know this: is this pandemic is going to change of architecture style at all? Like with this new social distancing thing, public spaces are kind of going out of fashion. So in long run, will they be converted into office spaces? Or they are also saying that right now our focus of our designs generally be on human to human interaction, and sometimes we design the entire building focusing on the human interaction. But now, will we not consider that? And again, so it where so they want to know ki, will there be a shift in the designing thought process of students of architecture now after this post-pandemic situation?
Well, this is a very interesting and very intelligent question coming from students. And I am sure they have a bright future if the students are thinking like this. Definitely, we have to think. We have to really think whether do we need these millions and millions square foot of built up space or offices, or the kind of public spaces that we have been designing. Do we need to do that henceforth? We need to really think about it. I'm sure the pandemic will be over. We get back to normal. But when we get back to normal, like I said earlier, we have to take care of the hygiene. We have to take care of the health. We have to take care of the other aspects of public interaction. We have to take care of it. For us, who are at the fag end of our fag quarter of our lives, world has changed for us totally. But for you young guys, you have to think about it. Uh, how future would be, how our public spaces would be, how interaction will happen. Now that we are working from home since so many months and we're doing it efficiently, do we need to go to an office? Is what we need to think. Do we need to go to, you know, theaters? Do we need to go anywhere else for our recreation, for interaction, for work, or for learning? We need to think about it, and we need to think about it optimally. So it's not going to change architecturally, but it is definitely going to change as far as policies are concerned, as far as frameworks are concerned. Yes. And architectural style, there's no architectural style. Architecture is more deeper and more intense than just a style. Style comes and passes by. Today, I'm wearing a particular kind of dress and I'm putting a particular kind of trouser, keeping a particular hairstyle. That's a style. That's why it's called a hairstyle, and it changes with time. Just see the way you used to look 10 years ago or 20 years ago. Things have changed, but architecture is not that. Architecture is something very intense and very intrinsic and very deep, and it's beyond a style. So if you can understand that difference, you will be better architects. So architecture does not change with the seasons changing or other external issues. So it is very intrinsic to existence of a human being.
Definitely. So now I think Saloni has a few questions from other students. Meanwhile, let us look at the chat box and see what questions we have got in the chat box.
Sir, as we all know, the initiation of Atmanirbhar Bharat by the Indian government and the support and love and the contribution it is getting from the Indians, Tejaswini from Amity, Gurgaon wants to know to what extent our building industry is dependent on China. We have heard out your talks about encouraging vernacular architecture. Is it possible for us to explore local options in place of Chinese goods? And are enough local options available to achieve the Atmanirbhar Bharat uh, initiation?
I've been a advocate of vernacular architecture, local empowerment, and so on and on. Indigenous construction techniques and skills, art, craft, and building industry, and so on and on since ages. I've been practicing like that, and I've been thinking like that, talking in various forums, imploring students and architects to embrace this thought process. And now it is called the Atmanirbhar Bharat, which I think has to be. See, I mean, let us understand one thing at a larger scale. Economies are going to be cocooned economies. I mean, it may be a very blasphemous statement that probably I am making. And but today, if you see, smaller offices or individual offices have survived the best. Larger offices have taken the brunt, whether it is a 1 lakh employee IT company or 500 employee architectural company. They have taken the brunt. If you are your own master, you are single, you have been surviving very well. If you are a farmer or if you are also farming apart from your profession, you are the happiest because you are able to produce what you eat, and so on and on. From the multinational grocery chains, we have gone back to our Nukkad grocer and have bought groceries and essential supplies in these last 3 months from that poor little fellow who was being wiped out by the multinational chains of supermarkets. So it has to be, while we ensure that this module is watertight and we are safe and secure in this cocoon, we should look ahead. We should not look ahead and not be secure and safe in our cocoon. So first we have to make our house, make our immediate surroundings absolutely secure and absolutely in sync with what we want for our survival. And then we should go ahead, then we should look out. First, we should strengthen our house. And that is why the vocal for local or Atmanirbhar Bharat. I am sure India, after independence, has been able to produce right from a needle to a missile and to a spacecraft and so on and on. We are technologically absolutely sound, but we need to be entrepreneurial to convert that soundness and that genius that we have into benefits for our own country. I had coined a term in the last NetCon of the IIA that we have to be indigenously genius, and the exploitation of the mind, the genius mind of our indigenous people, have to be brought ahead and brought forward. Exploitation doesn't mean exploitation in per se, but exploring the possibilities of that indigenous mind is the need of the hour.
Sir, why did COA change the eligibility criteria for BR to PCM? We have many seniors, alumni who were from non-science background and are doing very well in the profession.
I do not miss my words when I say it was one of the most stupidest of decisions that ever was taken. I hope you heard what I said.
Yes, sir.
It was not a wise decision taken. I had objected. I was not even a member of the council at that time, but I had objected to this whole thing, saying that physics, chemistry, mathematics is not the sole criteria to become an architect. It has a much wider connotation and much larger base and a foundation on which an architecture student should have or should learn. You should be, I don't mind even mathematics being as a compulsory subject. You have to have arts, science, commerce. Why not? I have produced statistics at that time when I said that the student coming from commerce and mathematics background were doing very well and were more brilliant students than people coming from science backgrounds. The people coming from science backgrounds are absolutely cocooned and they look like this. They have this thing on their eyes where they look only in one direction, because physics, chemistry, or so-called science channelizes your thought process only in one direction, and it makes you slaves of please don't take it as a president of the council's opinion, take it as my personal opinion, but science is absolutely useless as far as creative thinking is concerned, where a square plus b square is to be so 2 plus 2 is to be 4, and that is not what you learn as an architect. You have to have a much larger wide. Why can't sociologists become architects? Why can't commerce students, CAs become architects? So on and on. Why not? Why? I mean, if you say poetry is absent from architecture, you do not want a person who is learning arts to be a student of architecture. While you say poetry, architecture, or music is music in architecture, or whatever, those high sounding terms that you use. What the hell? This is paradox. This is the kind of dichotomy that the architectural profession is living in. And if it was in my hands and I could undo that change, I will do it yesterday.
Yeah, very true, sir. Because we also believe that architecture is very, very diverse. There are all types of architects, and it shouldn't be restricted to PCM graduates only. Anybody can have a passion for architecture. Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah. So most of the questions, I just had a look at the chat box. Most of the questions are already have been addressed by sir. Few questions which we could still take is a question from Dorishore, which says, "What is your idea about involvement of architects' role in rural housing, particularly in Northeast India?" So
Not only in Northeast India, anywhere,
anyway, yeah,
anywhere,
rural.
anywhere in the country.
That is generally architects are not seen much in the rural areas, but
Now,
shouldn't be
if the question
encouraged.
is over, I can answer. See, we cannot blame the architects, or we cannot blame the individual who is not wanting to go to a rural area to work, because the facilities out there are not as good as facilities in urban center. And basically, still our architecture per se and architectural education is elitist oriented. We want to design skyscrapers, we want to design huge projects, we want to design urban spaces, but we don't want to go to a village and design the village, make it an ideal village, work on augmenting the facilities in a village, or make a village house, or help the. I mean that is treated as activism, because there is no money there. The luxurious life that an architect dreams to have is not there in the rural society. But time has come where we need to do this, and time has come where we need to actually look into the policies that go into the agricultural sector or the rural sector. Because let us understand one thing, that the pandemic has taught us, when we see the migrant labors, which Ela, you were talking about in your, in your address in the beginning. We have seen helpless people going back insecure to their homes and villages or wherever they came from. Why did this happen in the first place is what we need to think. We need to empower our villages. We need to empower our rural sector economically, psychologically, in all health sector, every possible sector. We need to empower our rural areas and rural sectors so that this migration doesn't happen. And I am sure those people who are living in those villages or in those cities from where they migrate for a better dream, for a better life, and for the dream that they have, I'm sure they will not think of migrating if they have the equal opportunity in their villages. This does not mean that we will go and screw the villages, that, like our cities, we have spoiled our cities. This does not mean that we'll go and rape our villages like that. But keeping the fabric same, keeping the structure and the framework same, if we are able to augment economically and otherwise our rural sector, I'm sure the migration will stop, and half of our issues, in fact, 80% of the issues, I'm just giving a general statement, 80% of the issues of migration, urban migration that happens and plagues our cities will be taken care of. If you think largely. And architects need to play a very important role in this, where you look after the economic health of a village, you look after the social crime, health, environment, and indigenous techniques, appropriate technologies, and you make your rural sector ideal. And I'm sure you will not only earn substantial money out of it, but you will earn substantial self-respect and self-satisfaction from the whole process. We have recently written to the PMO and the HRD. They had asked for a lot of work is happening on that. We have given a small document wherein how architectural services and architects can be utilized in the upliftment of the economy of the rural sector. So I hope something will happen on it. We'll follow it after the pandemic is over and we're able to travel.
Yeah. So, amongst the questions, most of the questions are related to Architects Act, the long duration of the course, so wages, education, online internships. I think we have discussed all that in detail, and all these questions are already answered. So, one last question is from Sukanya Barua from Guwahati. She's just in second semester BR, but she wants to know. She's saying, "Will you enlighten us on how to prepare for an architectural job interview?" So I think there is still some time for her to appear for interviews. She's just
There's still some time. What will change better by the time you become an architect? The parameters would change, the attitude would change, There's still time. I'll answer that question if I'm still alive when you're in the 10th sem.
definitely.
But there was one question I was saying in the question box about NATA or something.
Yeah.
Someone was asking about NATA. I just want to brief if it's outside this scope, but NATA will be online this time. We are concerned about the safety and security of our students who are going to be appearing for NATA. most probably it will be in the mid or end of August. Uh, and it will be 100% online examination from your home. We are working the framework out, and we are working the infrastructure for it, and we're working the safeguards for it. And a couple of days we will announce it. And we are giving the option. There is a possibility that you may not have good bandwidth or net connectivity at your homes. So we are giving the option of you appearing from a center on an online exam where the net connectivity will be ensured. So if you do not have proper net connectivity at your homes or places of work, you are welcome to subscribe to a center option where you will be given an online test. So be rest assured, we are working on it and very diligently, and we'll be doing it on a multiple choice question format. There'll be no drawing test. So we're working on that options.
That is so good and very reassuring. I think that is the question most of the aspiring students would definitely have. So maybe coming towards the end of this discussion, I would like to say that I must add that if there is sincerity, honesty, passion, and love for architecture, as Sarah said, no one can stop you from being a good and successful architect in future. Thank you so much, Habib sir, for this wonderful
Money will
interaction.
come.
Yeah,
Don't worry about money, it will come.
it will
When
come.
you have all these qualities, it will come.
It will
And it will
come.
come in plenty.
Yeah, it comes late, but it comes eventually.
Yeah.
So
Provided you are committed, provided you are dedicated, and you love what you do.
yeah, coming from this suggestion coming from Habib sir, who has over 30 years of experience in education and practice and policy and being the COA president. So he was the best person to address all the issues of all the students here. So now I invite Gitika, our faculty, to say a few lines because she has been working towards all these questions, getting the questions from everyone and moderating them for quite some time.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ila ma'am, for giving this opportunity to be the part of this great event. Thank you, Dr. Padmakali ma'am, for always having faith and trust in all your colleagues and faculty members and guiding us for this event. I would like to especially thank Architect Habib Khan sir for taking out his valuable time and giving insight on several queries of the architects and architecture students. It helped us to get a deeper understanding of the future of architecture in these times. It was really an enlightening session and a great experience to interact with several faculties and students across the country. Last but not the least, I would like to thank all the faculty coordinators and students from different universities for their active participation and timely response. Thank you so much.
I would like to add one thing here, which I always do.
Yes, sir.
Why last and not the least? If it is not the least, let it be the first. All
Yeah.
those people who have worked backstage and helped do this program or other program, they should be acknowledged first,
Actually.
right? I mean, just my point.
Yeah, sure, sir.
Definitely. So everyone worked together and it was really a good learning from all of us because most of the questions, especially related to education and all, they are related to faculty also. So not only students, it was very enlightening for all faculty also. So may I call now, Saloni Jain to give the formal vote of thanks before we end the session.
Thank you, ma'am. Well, these are critical topics that sir has brought to light, and I'm pretty sure we all needed clarity at some point. As we come towards the end of this event, I deem it a great honor to propose a vote of thanks to all who have helped us in making this seminar such a resounding success. First of all, I would like to thank you, our chief guest, Architect Habib Khan, sir, for gracing this seminar. Thank you, sir, for your very interesting and thought-provoking address. I would like to express our profound gratitude to our Pro Vice Chancellor, Dr. Padmakali Banerjee, for her presence in this seminar. I would also like to thank our beloved Director, Dr. Ila Gupta, and our faculty coordinators, Dr. Pallavi, ma'am, Architect Geetika, ma'am, Architect Radhe sir, Architect Raghav sir, for their moral support and guidance. Finally, the wonderful audience who have turned up in such great numbers, not only from our college, but from other colleges as well. Thank you so much for your cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much.
Bye.
Thank you so
Bye.
much, sir.
All
It
the
was
best.
really enlightening. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
All
much,
the
sir.
best. All the best.